So, this guy stole billions of dollars worth of priceless art. Billions. Now, the guy's name is Stefan. Stefan is 24 years old, living in France, and this dude is completely obsessed with art and ancient artifacts. He loves everything about them. Paintings, sculptures, relics, antiques, all of it. And more than anything, he wants to own some of these pieces himself. There's just one problem. He's broke. Like seriously broke. In fact, he's still living at home in his mother's attic. But one day, around 1995, everything changes. Stefan is visiting a local museum with his girlfriend, a woman named Catherine. They're walking around casually, looking at exhibits, when they spot this antique pistol sitting on display. And immediately, Stefan is fascinated by it. He's like, that thing is so cool. Then he starts looking around, and he notices something important. There's no security guard nearby. Now suddenly, a thought pops into his head. He wants to steal it. Right there. Right then. But there's one issue. He's there with Catherine, and he has no idea how she's going to react if he suddenly decides to commit a crime in the middle of the museum. So basically, he turns to her and asks, "Hey, do you mind if I break the law and steal this priceless artifact?" And apparently, she's just like, all right. So Stefan picks up the pistol, slips it into his backpack, and the two of them casually walk out of the museum like they didn't just commit a major crime. And after that, I guess they're both thinking the exact same thing. Well, that was easy. So they do it again. They hit another museum and steal something else. And again, nobody stops them. No alarms. No guards chasing them. Nothing. Pretty soon, this turns into a routine. Museum after museum after museum across France. They're stealing small sculptures, paintings, relics, ancient artifacts. Basically anything they can fit into a bag and sneak out the door with. And honestly, it's working way better than it probably should. And because it's so easy, they decide to go international. Soon they're traveling all over Europe. Germany, the Netherlands, Austria, Switzerland, everywhere. But they're smart about it. They target places with weak security. Museums with barely any cameras, or sometimes no cameras at all. A lot of the time, they strike during lunch hours because security guards are more likely to be on break. And they've got the whole operation planned out perfectly. While Stefan grabs the artifact and stuffs it into his bag, or if it's a painting, removes it from the frame and slides it under his coat, and Catherine acts as the lookout. Whenever somebody starts getting too close, she gives him a little cough as a warning signal. So at this point, they've basically developed their own system. Now, you'd think they'd eventually sell all this stolen artwork on the black market and make millions of dollars. But they never do. Not once. They don't sell a single piece. Instead, they keep everything. They hang the paintings on the walls. They display the artifacts around the room. They basically turn their home into a private museum. And when I say their home, remember, Stefan is still living in his mother's attic. And Catherine is living there with him. Which is honestly insane when you think about it. Because they're broke. Completely broke. And sitting around them is artwork worth millions of dollars. But apparently, they don't care about the money. They just love owning the art. And honestly, they probably love the thrill of stealing it too. So this whole crime spree keeps going for years. Now it's 1997, and this is where things finally start to go wrong. One day, Stefan and Catherine visit an art gallery in Switzerland. They steal a painting like they've done countless times before. They carefully walk out and try to leave like normal. But this time, an employee notices the painting is missing almost immediately. And he's like, "Wait, somebody took the painting." So he chases after them. And apparently, he catches them. Boom. Stefan and Catherine are arrested. But here's the crazy part. The police have no idea these two have been robbing museums all across Europe. They only know about this single theft. So since authorities think this is just some first-time mistake, they go easy on them. They get banned from Switzerland for 3 years, and they receive prison sentences that are suspended as long as they stay out of trouble. Which, of course, means they immediately go right back to stealing art. Except now they're even cockier than before. They start taking bigger risks. They begin targeting larger museums, art fairs, auction houses, sometimes even churches. And now they're stealing something almost every few weeks. Sometimes they even rob the same museum multiple times within just a few days. Like seriously, they'd steal one painting, come back later, steal another one, then come back again and steal something else entirely. And during this period, they steal hundreds of items. Paintings, sculptures, relics, ancient objects, basically anything valuable they can get their hands on. By the end of it all, they've stolen around 300 pieces of art. And the estimated value of everything they took? $2 billion. $2 billion worth of art and artifacts. And remember, they still aren't selling any of it, which actually makes it harder for police to track them, because there's no black market trail leading back to them. No suspicious sales. Nothing. At this point, Stefan feels unstoppable. But Catherine doesn't. Ever since they got caught in Switzerland and had their fingerprints taken, she becomes increasingly paranoid. She's convinced their names are sitting in some international database somewhere, and that eventually the police are going to connect everything back to them. So she finally tells Stefan she's done. She's like, I don't want to go to prison. You need to stop too. But Stefan doesn't want to hear any of that. Eventually, they reach a compromise. They'll continue stealing, but Stefan has to wear gloves from now on, and they will never steal from Switzerland again. Stefan agrees. But deep down, he's basically thinking, yeah, whatever. And this is where he starts going rogue. He begins carrying out heists by himself. Then one day in 2001, he decides to do something unbelievably stupid. He goes back to Switzerland. Not only that, but he targets a museum not far from the same area where he got arrested the first time. While he's there, he spots a 15th century bugle, and he immediately thinks it has to be worth a fortune. So he steals it. Then he leaves, drives home, and proudly shows it to Catherine, and she immediately panics. She's like, please tell me you wore gloves. And Stefan's like, no. Then he casually admits he stole it in Switzerland, which obviously starts a huge argument. The next morning, Stefan feels bad about upsetting her, so he says he'll return to the museum and wipe away the fingerprints himself. But Catherine refuses. She thinks it's way too risky, so she says she'll do it instead. The two of them drive to the museum, and Catherine goes inside while Stefan waits in the car. But after sitting there for a while, Stefan gets bored. So he gets out and starts wandering around outside. And this is where everything completely falls apart. A random passerby notices him acting suspiciously and reports him to a museum employee. The cashier takes one look at Stefan and instantly recognizes him. He's like, that guy was here yesterday when the bugle was stolen. So the police get called. And just like that, Stefan is arrested again. Now, I couldn't find a picture of Stefan, so just imagine a baguette sitting in handcuffs. But here's where the story gets even crazier. And Catherine hears that Stefan has been arrested, and she immediately drives back to his mother's house, the attic where they've been hiding all the stolen art for years. And she confesses everything to Stefan's mother. She tells her about all the museum robberies, all the stolen paintings, all the artifacts, everything. And Stefan's mother completely loses it. But instead of turning the evidence over to police, she decides to destroy it so Stefan won't spend decades in prison. So she grabs the artwork and artifacts from the attic, hundreds of priceless pieces, and starts destroying them. Some pieces are smashed, some are burned, and the rest get dumped into a nearby river. Just like that, around $2 billion worth of priceless art and artifacts are completely destroyed forever. Years of theft. Hundreds of stolen masterpieces. Gone. Eventually, Catherine is sentenced to 18 months in prison. Stefan receives 4 years in prison. And you'd think that after all of this, after getting arrested, losing everything, and going to prison, maybe he'd finally learn his lesson. Nope. Because after Stefan gets out of prison, he goes right back to stealing art again. In fact, to this day, he's apparently been arrested multiple times. And right now, he's reportedly under house arrest. So yeah, lesson absolutely not learned.